through an item analysis to apply classical test theory. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go up to Analyze and Scale. We're going to click on Reliability Analysis, and that's going to take us right here to our little view. We're going to want to select all of the ratings that we want to use for these. Now, what's important here, we might want to right-click and display variable names. However, in this case, it's okay to use both. Statisticians go back and forth between whatever they use. You're going to select all of these items. You're going to transpose these over here to bring them over. Click Statistic, and now we get to the important things. Well, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to select Item, Scale, Scale if item deleted, Mean, Variances, and lastly, Correlations. Everything else is going to remain the same. When we're done with these, we're going to make sure that our model stays in alpha. We're going to click OK, and then we're going to move forward. So then we get our output. So the first thing we want to analyze is our case processing summary. We had about 19,000 people complete the survey. Here we have the excluded number. Now this just means that if someone didn't fill out the survey, we would complete a list-wise deletion. Here it's okay to use pairwise deletion, but we typically use list-wise. This just means that if they were missing one answer, that they were going to be completely removed. Here we have our reliability statistic, our Cronbach alpha, which is negative, and I want that to be noted because we're going to come revisit this idea. Now, with the Cronbach alpha being negative, this is a poor indication that there's something going wrong in classical test theory and that we're actually violating an underlying assumption. But again, we're going to get back to that. We have our N, which is 10 items. We're just looking at extroversion here, extroversion, everyone filled these out. We have our means and our standard deviations. Now, after we examine our item statistic, we're going to go to item total statistic. So this just tells us our corrected item correlation, which is probably the most useful statistic that we're going to use throughout a reliability analysis. So our reliability analysis here is a 0.03, which is not very good. In fact, we have some negative numbers, which we're going to get back to. But here we have our Cronbach alpha if the item's deleted. So if the item was completely removed, this would essentially mean that this is where our Cronbach would go. Now, just referencing quickly back to our reliability statistic with a negative 0.39, this is actually an improvement on the extroversion 2 item with a negative 0.27. One more thing I wanted to also mention is up here with our item statistic, this is where we can actually tell how hard or easy the item is. Now this depends heavily on really two things, the scale and the construct. So our scale that we're using is a 1 to 5, and our construct is somewhat arbitrary in this case. So we would have to decide if agreeing is harder or disagreeing is harder on this scale. But again, this doesn't really matter to us. Now, if we go to moving forward, I want to revisit this idea about the negative Cronbachs. So that means that one of the underlying assumptions in this test is being violated. So why do we have a negative Cronbach? Well, that essentially means that our computation of alpha, our reliability measure, is negative whenever the sum of the individual item variances is greater than the scale variance. Now bear with me. This essentially means that our alpha will be negative whenever the average covariance among the items is negative. So even more simply stated, the items need to be recoded because not all of our items are measuring the same construct. Now this would be done normally through a factor analysis, but today I've simplified this and I've already established the ones that need to be recoded. So we're going to want to rerun these, but first I want to show you guys what the entire Big 5 actually ended up looking like we have our Cronbach of 0.55 when you put in neuroticism, conscientiousness, openness to experience, agreeableness, and our last one. So with a Cronbach of 0.55, this is obviously not great, but this is much better than our negative Cronbach. Now, how we would transform the data to recode it, we'd go to transform. We're going to press recode into different variables. You're going to select the item. It's going to pop over here into this window. You're going to rename this item. Make sure to just have it identifying. I like to put an R at the end of it just to mean that it's recoded. Then you're going to click change and it's going to be added to this list. You're going to repeat these until all of these are over. You're going to click all the new items, and then you're going to fix each one of the values as being opposite. In this case, we have a 1 to 5 scale, and if we're recoding it, our 1 is going to become a 5, our 2 is going to become a 4, 3 stays the same, 4 becomes 2, 5 becomes 1. This will be continued. You're going to press, I believe, continue on that other page, and then OK right here, and that's going to transform your data. So once you've recoded these things, it's going to pop out, and this is going to be your new recoded information. So now I wanted to quickly say that this process seems like a no-brainer of recoding things, but you'd be surprised with how many people forget to do this step. This is maybe one of the most crucial parts, because this completely changes what the test is actually measuring. And remember, don't forget to remove the old items and put in the new ones when you analyze the information again for the second time to recode these. So now quickly looking over, so we get an alpha of 0.72. Then when we take a look at our item statistic, sometimes when you recode, you can also decide to standardize your items. But in this case, a simple transformation is suitable. So if it was standardized, our means would look quite different, and so are our standard deviations, but everything remains mostly the same. Now, we're going to scan through our item total statistic, our favorite list right here. We're going to look at our corrected item total correlation. Typically, what we're looking for is an item correlation of 0.4 or higher. In this case, I don't see any 0.4s, but we still have some negative numbers. So this would likely be an item we would want to remove or delete, especially when we look at this column. If it was deleted, how it would raise our Cronbach. But this is now a much better method of going through and making sure that your items are measuring what you want it to measure, and also our reliability of these measures. So now you guys have an understanding of classical test theory and how to apply it to your survey. We developed a few questions, and we want to give you guys the chance to practice this. Thank you.